A world free of bias means that we can reach the higher levels of a diverse, equal world by connecting all those wires. Wires that have an electric current running through them allows us to be those positively charged particles. And we, together, are going to break the bias so that we forever will no longer fear fighting for better. There is a bias to be broken. My dream of an equal world is what I have awoken from, and I know that it's something that can become true. As the world is a living photograph, saturated with diversity and hues. I march and I strive, with my head held high, as a woman, and us women will not be pinned down nor weighed down by anything, no matter how hard that anything tries. We all have different stories. We take each day as it comes, by painting the picture, by writing the literature, to be shared with the world. We will choose to challenge, and we will break the bias, and find strength and pump our tires and drive down the open road by taking the steering wheel. We'll rise up from our heels until it is love, confidence and everything positive that we feel, and until our stories are revealed to the world. Because this is us. We're born to be leaders and born to be great. So let's continue to create our stories in a world where we no longer fear fighting for better.
Hello everyone, this is Jenny, your host for today's episode.
Last March 8, the world celebrated the International Women's Day. This global celebration has reminded us again
on the need to promote and nurture worldwide commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Most of all, the world will be celebrating the achievements of women across sectors and, of course, highlighting the acceleration of women's equality. The International Women's Day has been happening for over a century, with the first celebration an International Women's Day gathering in 1911, supported by over 1 million people. For this year, the International Women's Day campaign theme is Break the Bias. The International Women's Day 2022 notes, imagine a gender-equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination, a world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive, a world where difference is valued and celebrated. Together, we can forge women's equality. Collectively, we can all break the bias.
Individually, we're all responsible for our own thoughts and actions all day, every day.
We can break the bias in our communities.
We can break the bias in our workplaces.
We can break the bias in our school, colleges, and university.
We can break the bias in the playing fields, in the playing courts.
We can break the bias in sports.
Yes, we can break the bias. The United Nations Women drumbeats this year's campaign for gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow, recognizing the contributions of women and girls around the world who are leading the change. With sports as a realm that is obviously predominantly men, how can we break the bias? How can we achieve gender equality and that so-called empowerment of women? How can women leaders in sports help accelerate progress on breaking gender disparity at the sports boardroom and workplaces? How can we move ahead in leveling the playing field? Forging an inclusive world will continue to be a challenge in sports. But in this episode, we will showcase power women in sports as we salute their continuing effort to make sports an inclusive world. The few top-notch women who were able to break the glass ceiling in sports. Ladies and gentlemen, the women presidents of the National Sports Association. At Rise Up, Shape Up, we call them Power Women.
We call them Power Women for unlocking a leadership style that is inspiring and nurturing, for using their wisdom and voice as a tool to bring out the best in their respective sports and in the Filipino athlete,
for inspiring and creating change to make sporting culture a reality.
For being able to take Team Philippines on a journey and reach remarkable outcomes in competitive sports.
For making a difference in leading and managing athletes, coaches, and sports officials within their turf.
For influencing athletic potentials and pushing them to their limits.
For living their lives in a way that models positive values and character.
For touching other people's lives and making an impact to the sporting community.
We are proud to present to you the women presidents of the National Sports Associations, comprising about 15% of the total population of National Sports Associations presidents. But before you get to see them, let's relax and listen to another informative kwento of Commissioner Celia Kiram about the National Sports Association.
Ang aking ibabahaging kwento sa inyo ngayon ay ang mga nakakawiling kaalaman tungkol sa isang natatanging pribadong organisasyong olimpiko sa ating bansa, ang National Sports Association. Alam niyo ba na Section 13 ng Republic Act 6847 o Batas na Lumikha sa Philippine Sports Commission, kinikilala nito ang mga National Sports Associations na miyembro ng Philippine Olympic Committee. Sa Pilipinas, kung ang Philippine Sports Commission ang pinakamataas na pampublikong ahensya ng sport, sa pribadong sektor naman ang Philippine Olympic Committee ang pinakamataas na pribadong organisasyon sa sport. Sila ay may kanya-kanyang mandato. Alam niyo ba na isa lamang na National Sports Association sa bawat sport ang kinikilala ng Philippine Sports Commission? Ayon sa batas, ang mga National Sports Associations ay autonomous at may eksklusibong technical na control sa pagpalaganap at pagunlad ng kanilang sport. Ang Philippine Sports Commission ay may supervisory at visitorial powers sa mga National Sports Associations sa aspeto ng paggamit ng government funds. Upang ang isang National Sports Association ay kilalanin ng Philippine Olympic Committee at Philippine Sports Commission, dapat ito ay kinikilala bilang lehitimong national federation ng kanilang international federation. Alam niyo rin ba na ang International Federation o tinatawag na IF ang siyang gumagawa ng mga international rules ng isang sport? Upang lalo natin maintindihan, narito ang halimbawa ng International Federation ng mga nasabing National Sports Associations. Halimbawa, ang Gymnastics Association of the Philippines ay under siya ng Internationale de Gymnastique. Ang Philippine Swimming ay under FINA or Federación Internacional de Natación. Ang PhilSilat Sports Association ay under the Perguruan Pengkaksilat at Tiribangsa International Pengkaksilat Federation. At ang Canoe Kayak ay under the International Canoe Federation. Ang Philippine Rugby Football Union naman ay under the World Rugby. Ang Philippine Sepak Takraw ay under the International Sepak Takraw Federation. At ang Equestrian Association of the Philippines ay under the Federation Esquertre Internationale. Ayon sa Republic Act 6847, ang Philippine Sports Commission ay kinikilala ang mga sumusunod na tungkulin at kapangyarihan ng National Sports Associations. Magkaroon ng Constitution and bylaws, mag-generate ng pondo upang maisa katuparan ang kanyang layunin at programa, makipag-affiliate sa international o regional sports associations, mag-organize ng mga kompetisyon para sa pag-promote ng kanya-kanyang sport. Humirang ng kanilang kinatawan sa Philippine Olympic Committee, magpasya sa usaping tungkol sa amateur status at disiplina ng mga atleta. Paggawa ng training program ng mga atleta at paghahanda para sa mga international competition. Pagpili ng mga atleta, coaches, at iba pang opisyal para sa kanilang mga national teams na may pagsasaalang-alang sa kakayahan, disiplina, moral na katangian at aptitude ng atleta. Pagpili at pagbigay ng kaukulang license sa mga referee, umpires, at iba pang mga technical officials na mag-o-officiate sa mga national at international competitions. Alam niyo ba na sa 51 na National Sports Associations na regular member ng Philippine Olympic Committee, 9 lamang ang babaeng presidente ng mga ito? Ating kilalanin sila. Nagwawakas ang kwento tungkol sa pribadong organisasyon na kilala bilang National Sports Association. Muli, ito ang inyong Commissioner Kiram na walang sawang maghahatid ng kwentong kababaihan, kwento para sa kaalaman at karunungan sa sport.
Not at your best? You may be dehydrated. You need Pocari Sweat. It replaces the electrolytes you've lost and helps you perform at your best. Be at your best with Pocari Sweat. Pocari Sweat.
We asked our NSA presidents how they describe their leadership style as heads of their respective NSAs. We also asked them to share some best practices in managing their associations.
Presenting to you the National Sports Associations that are led and managed by power women. Our salute to these women who are breaking the glass ceiling in sports, the women presidents of the National Sports Association.
Multi-talented Karen Claire Tanchanco Caballero is the chairwoman and president of Philippine Sepak Takraw Association Incorporated. She is a firm believer that sports plays a crucial role in nation building. As a former national athlete herself, she puts emphasis on an athlete-centric leadership to be responsive to what the athletes truly need. She wears many hats. Currently, she is the Deputy Chef de Mission of Team Philippines for the 2022 Asian Games in Hangzhou, China, Deputy Secretary General of the Philippine Olympic Committee, first woman Vice President of the Asian Sepak Takraw Federation and the International Sepak Takraw Federation, Vice Chair of Women in Sports Commission at the Philippine Olympic Committee, Board Member of the Air Force Special Services Group, and Executive Director of Resto PH.
Hi, yes. Maybe because I'm a mother of 2 college kids, my leadership style is not too far from what I am in real life, which is really like a mother hen of sorts. But the kind of mom that is big on tough love. So I am more of leaning towards fairness, making my team understand the things they need. But it's I'd like to believe that it could be very diplomatic and there's always an open table for conversation. Since I came from a corporate background, I'm very big on paper trail and transparency. Accountability is something that I am very particular about, not just with my leadership, but with the leadership and accountability and deliverables of my coaching staff and my athletes and my fellow board of directors and officers. So it's pretty much straight up cut and dry na accountability, transparency. I think you can't go wrong with that. Diyan.
Miss Ada Milby is the president of the Philippine Rugby Football Union Incorporated, founded in 1998 and was granted full World Rugby membership in 2008. The Philippine Rugby Football Union is the official governing body of the sport of rugby union in the Philippines. A multi-hyphenate sports personality, Ada Milby is a self-confessed sports fanatic, international speaker, and swing dancer. She earned her Bachelor of Business Administration at Devi University and Rugby Scholarship recipient from World Rugby Inaugural Women. She was the first female president of the Philippines Rugby Football Union. She served as Secretary General from 2014 to 2020. She's an executive committee member and chair for Women's Advisory Committee of Asia Rugby from 2016 to present. Asia Rugby is the regional governing body for rugby in Asia, responsible for creating and implementing strategies that support world rugby outcomes to grow and develop the game. She's the primary driver to update the constitution, increasing the number of women on executive committee. She worked closely with World Rugby to implement the strategic plan on accelerating the development of women in Asia and advocated to increase the number of female representation on Asia Rugby committees. She's the Asian Council representative from 2017 to present. World Rugby is the highest decision-making body within the International Federation with oversight on strategy across the global game. She's a member of Regions Committee, a member of Community Rugby Committee, and member of Community Law Flexibility Working Group from 2020 to 2021. Let's give a big hand to Miss Ada Milby.
My leadership style as an NSA president is pretty democratic at the top level, and it's more mentor-focused with staff and volunteers within the community. I think it's really important to ensure that the majority of people within an organization are all driving in the same general direction. And I try to get feedback from relevant stakeholders wherever possible to feed into our decision-making process and seek to understand other viewpoints and let that sort of shape how I allow that to shape my own view. So I'll come in maybe with my own viewpoint on something, but by listening first to other people's viewpoints, I can allow that to influence or, like I said, help shape how I also see the problem, because maybe they would share information that I didn't know before or a different view that I hadn't heard before. And it's really important to listen to what other people have to share and allow that to develop your own, like it's part of developing your own view on an issue. One of the hardest lessons that I've learned in my leadership journey is accepting that when different parties are all advocating for a different view, usually the best outcome is when no one gets everything that they wanted. For me, that demonstrates that when everyone comes to a discussion seeking solutions, the group is focused on finding solutions, not just getting what they want. It's a work in progress for me. I know that that's not always what happens, but it is what I think is the best outcome or a best way to approach problems or people coming to a discussion with different viewpoints. But yeah, it's one of the ones I want to keep developing and help develop that in others. As for my mentorship style of focus, I use this leadership style primarily when I want to empower others to find solutions and step into responsibility and action. I find that when I give explicit orders to people, the person, they're probably going to do what I ask them to do, but probably not go above and beyond what I've asked them to do. But when I create an environment where others have a bit more freedom to find creative solutions to those problems, they're usually more invested in the outcome because they are part of the result. What are my best practices as a manager? I think that my personal choice for best practice is to let my managers do the managing. In all seriousness, I'm really fortunate that our NSA is one of the more robust setups for staff in the Philippines. We have senior staff that overlook operations, training, education, social media, partnerships, admin, finance. We've got staff that overlook everything that we need to do on a day-to-day basis. So I receive updates from them on a regular basis, but we are still a small and growing community. So I have also developed personal relationships with our clubs and even individual players. That's mostly because I came through the system myself as a player, as a coach, as a development manager. So those relationships, they don't just, they might change a bit, but they don't go away just because I'm the president of the NSA. And in fact, it's probably more important to maintain those relationships because you, like I said earlier, you want to make sure that you are getting stories from everyone. You want to know what everyone's experience is. And while you may not be able to make 100% of the people 100% of the time, the point is you try to make as many people happy as much as possible by making sure that we're staying aligned with our strategic plan and staying on task with what we say we're going to do for the clubs and our members. I think that no one really likes a micromanager, so I really try to allow my team and the managers the space to do their jobs. And of course, we have policies in place to monitor performance and allow room for growth and development. But for me, it's really important that everyone feels comfortable to approach me with problems, and that way we can work towards finding solutions to those problems.
Miss Teresita Uy is the president of the Philippine Canoe, Kayak, Dragonboat Federation. This NSA was recognized by the Philippine Olympic Committee in 1997 and takes care of all moving forward public sports in the country. Let's welcome Miss Teresita Uy. Miss Uy graduated from the Far Eastern University with a degree of BS Medical Technology. She previously worked as the association's treasurer. As its current president, Miss Uy is guiding the association into greater heights as she is focused on charting the right program for the athletes.
Whether as a president of an NSA or as a private person, I always wanted to practice participate leadership. I believe that every member of the PCKF management, from the board to the coaches to the clubs, has its respective roles to play, and I fully respect that. I always wanted everyone to actively participate in the performance of everyone's functions and responsibility towards achieving the goals set by PCKF. This is very democratic because respect for everyone's capacity and limitation is observed. The essence of my kind of leadership is involving team members in the decision-making process, of course strictly observing protocols and hierarchy in the organization. Athletes must look up to their coaches as their leaders. Coaches and trainers also respect and look up to their head coach as their leader. The hierarchy must always be respected. This is where discipline is practiced in our sport. As president of PCKF, I see to it that all national teams members feel they are important part of the organization. This is where modification is nurtured and developed. While I practice participate leadership, I still have the last word in the decision-making process. In participate management, we get the opinions and insight of others in the organization. All these views and opinions are to me very valuable. Gathering different opinions and perception give me the opportunity and privilege to see a bigger perspective of any issue or subject matter. So I listen and process in my mind and heart everyone's word before I make the last sale. For example, Coach Len being the head coach as the final decision on the matters that would affect training and development of an athlete. Coach Len does her training program considering the maximum capacity of an athlete. Whatever the head coach recommends that is beneficial for training, development and welfare of the athletes, I seriously take into consideration. Should a major issue requires a decision, I see to it that my PCKF board is involved in the decision making. The PCKF is a strong team with a very sportive and caring culture. This is probably because of its kind of leadership. I believe that a participate leadership style helps in the creation of a strong team. With this, we are also assured of achieving a high level of productivity. Sa simpleng explanation, para itong kay coach style leadership, similarity to a sports team coach, I believe in the identifying and nurturing the strength of each member of the pool. I'll also push on establishing strategies that would enable the PCKF team to work better together. It is like paddling forward. Team paddling like Dragonboat must be executed in perfect synchrony. Very strategic and democratic as we together with our coaches put more emphasis on the growth and success of its individual athlete. I am a leader that gives premium importance on communication. I believe that a strong team is created when strong communication is practiced. I am a coach-style leader and manager of our NSA PCKF as I am very accessible and open to offering guidance or readily available for meeting to discuss feedback and updates.
Miss Cynthia Carrion is the president of the Gymnastics Association of the Philippines, established in 1962 and became affiliated with the International Gymnastics Federation the following year in 1963. The Gymnastics Association of the Philippines is the governing body of gymnastics in the Philippines. Carrion is the treasurer of the Philippine Olympic Committee, Executive Board Member of the Asian Gymnastics Union, Executive Committee Member of the Women in Gymnastics Commission under the Federación Internacional de Gimnastique. Carrion earned the 2016 100 Most Influential Filipino Women in the World conferred by the Global Filipino Women's Network. She was also the 2009 Personal Fitness Trainer of the Year by IDEA USA. She is also the 2008 Ambassador of the Sea by the Ocean Environment for her dedication and leadership in promoting the Philippines' conservation and protection of marine resources. She is also the 2003 Best in Women in Sports for Asia Continent awarded by the International Olympic Committee. Let's listen to her sharing about her leadership style and best practices.
Hello everybody that's listening to me. I'm glad to be here today with you to be able to speak to you of my leadership quality, if I consider myself. I believe that I'm a combination of a democratic leader and a strategic leader. As a democratic leader, as exactly what it sounds like, I make decisions based on the inputs of the board, the coaches, and concerned professionals and experts in gymnastics. I consider everyone from the lowest person of GAP, when I say GAP is gymnastics office, to the parents, the coaches, and the highest authority like the board as equally as important as everybody else. Nobody is more important than the other. If one fails to do its function well, the organization, GAP organization, will not be able to be effective in its mandate to promote and develop gymnastics. After getting and listening to whatever sides of the story, I appreciate the voice of others. And I mean, really, I appreciate the voice of others. And I don't get mad at them when they speak out. Open discussions with people involved, especially when we face major issues, is very, very important. Exchanges of opinion and views Recommendations and suggestions are, to me, very, very helpful. I greatly encourage well-thought feedback because it's the only way to improve on something. If you don't get any feedback, you cannot be improved. As head of the association, I always weigh all the options before arriving in any decisions. Feedbacks must always be objective. What do I mean? I don't allow gossips, grapevines within my organization. This is very divisive and nonsense. It causes chaotic things. Feedbacks and opinions are important if they can provide helpful information or positive criticism about any action or behavior in order to adjust and improve current and future actions and behavior. Criticisms I also allow if it will improve something. This leads to my being a strategist. I believe I am a strategic leader because I visualize what we need to achieve in the Philippine gymnastics. We plan for strategies to get our goal. I make the best out of the resources that we have, and we don't have very many resources, and that we can access. Limitation of resources is not my option, because I believe in the old saying, if there is a will, there is always a way. We at GAP organization marry a strategic plan in our strategic management. And I have 2 words in my whole vocabulary that I never use and I remove. The word is I can't. That is out of my vocabulary. You can do anything you want. You can do. Your mind is very powerful. You can do whatever you want if you want it. And tired. A lot of people say, I'm tired. Why are you tired? You don't have to be tired, you know. You can tell your mind that you're not tired. So these are the 2 words that I removed from my vocabulary. And I will tell you that to make a gym, I hope you can see my gym, my new gym. To make a gym like we have now, it's not been very easy. I had to really, the challenges were big, but we went on and on and on. And I had a lot of, like you say, that bad feedbacks, bad gossips, but we went on and on and on, and we fixed it all up until we all were united. And the important thing in an organization is to be united. You have to be united together, because if you have a little bit problem here, it cannot work. So the unity is so important. And that's what we found in gymnastics now. We're all united. We're doing great. And I'm so proud of my world champion, Kaloy. And this is only the beginning. Carlos Yulo is only the beginning. We are going to have more world champions in gymnastics. And we are going to continue for 2024 Paris Olympics. I feel we're going to get the Olympic medal. And we're going to continue on to 2028. I want to bring a team. And I'm training now these young kids that will go with Kaloy to be a team. Because every country I see, they have a team. They have a team. And I feel so bad because Philippines only 1. I want at least 4. Every country, even Vietnam, gets 4, you know. Yeah. So even the poor countries of Thailand have 4. It's only Philippines have 1. So never mind. We're going to get there with the help of our Filipino people. And now I know the Filipino people are all behind gymnastics, and we're going to make it. And I thank everybody for that. Thank you.
Miss Lailani Velasco is the president of the Philippine Swimming Incorporated. Miss Dayan Leah Dominique C. Cheng is the president of the Philippine Skating Union Incorporated, the governing body of skating sport in the Philippines. Miss Maria Rebecca Garcia is the president of the Philippine Dance Sport Federation Incorporated, the governing body of the sport of dance sport in the Philippines. Miss Princess Giselle Kiram is the president of the Philsilat Sports Association Incorporated, the governing body of Pencak Silat Sport in the Philippines.
While there may still be a long way to go in achieving equality in sports, our women leaders continue to make strides forward in balancing the genders on and off the pitch.
We have with us today Dr. Maria Luisa Guinto to talk about women in sport leadership, creating a culture of shared identity. Dr. Guinto is an associate professor and research director of the College of Human Kinetics, UP Diliman. She is a founding member of the Association of Sport and Exercise Psychology of the Philippines and treasurer of the Asian South Pacific Association of Sports Psychology, a member of the Women in Sports Commission of the Philippine Olympic Committee, and serves as executive board member of the International Association of PE in Sports for Girls and Women. Let us all welcome back at the Rise Up, Shape Up stage, Dr. Marissa Guinto.
Let me begin by identifying who is a leader. First of all, we know that a leader is basically a person who influences and encourages a group of people to work towards the realization of common goals. Now, the challenge is, how do we develop this culture of shared identity, particularly in the context of sport, where achievement of our shared goals promote this shared identity? Now, this is very important in the context of sport, where teamwork is very important. And teamwork is essentially that ability to share in the identity of the team or the group. So how do women leaders facilitate this process? First of all, let's look at the basic characteristics that women leaders are known for. First, women leaders have this transformational leadership style. Women leaders are known to be more transformational in their approach because they spend more time coaching their team, not just for professional development, but for personal development as well. They value personal communication as a key to success and knowing their people on a personal and professional level. So they're very comfortable with this. So for most women leaders, leadership is not only meant to achieve organizational goals, but also for transforming their followers to be better people. Women leaders are also known to be very task-focused. And this is actually an advantage because they have the patience for detail and the perseverance for the completion of tasks within deadlines. So from an operational point of view, this is really a benefit to the organization because day-to-day tasks are completed, and these ensure the smooth functioning of the organization. Women also prefer to work in collegiate atmospheres where people are more or less colleagues and peers and equals. In terms of the organizational structure, this means that women gravitate towards a flatter organizational structure that enables them to work in a team where authority and subordinate are not very clearly defined as in male-dominated organizations. So women are usually more critical of hierarchical structures in organizations. And connected to this is also the tendency of women leaders to be more promoting of cooperation and collaboration in the workplace. And this is very typical of feminine behavior because we value cooperation among members of the family and the organization as well. Now, another side of this, of course, is for us to be very mindful of clarity of roles and responsibilities because otherwise we can have redundancy in our work roles and responsibilities. And part of this characteristic style of women is also our communication. Women leaders tend to be more participative and possess a more democratic style of leading people. And so we're kind of allergic to this command and control style practiced by our male counterparts. And we tend to be a little bit indirect with our communication, especially with the more difficult issues. Why? Because we want to also cultivate more space for people to acknowledge their differences in accomplishing our goals. And of course, being also the proponents of balanced family and work, we tend to be more mindful in integrating work and family. We acknowledge the members of the organization are also family members, and therefore it is important for us that our members are also happy family members and able to balance their family and work. And that work can be our sports as well. So how do we enable this culture of shared identity with the kind of leadership that we bring to the table? First of all, I'd like to borrow from the principles of self-determination theory that explains that people are basically motivated to grow and change by basically three universal psychological needs. And what are these universal psychological needs? First, the people are drawn to build their competence. Nobody wants to feel incompetent, especially in the field of sports, where competence can actually be part of our physical and psychological strength. Therefore, our members, whether leaders or followers, must feel competent, and therefore part of our work is to ensure that people grow professionally through further education and training, whether they're coaches or athletes. It is important to build our people by ensuring that their level of competence develops over time. It is also important to nourish and cultivate the sense of autonomy of our people, where they are part of decision making and that we provide opportunities for them to determine the outcome of their efforts instead of simply following, as we are normally doing in many sport organizations because of the very nature of sport, where athletes are expected to obey and follow authorities, whether it's the coaches or management. So we need to redefine that so that autonomy is not necessarily a questioning of competence of our leaders, but really sharing in that desire to be part of the organizational decision-making and the determination of its outcomes, both on the personal and organizational level. And we also need to nurture that need for relatedness or connections between and among members and leaders of the organization, especially in our culture where relationships are very integral to our ability to achieve goals. Then as leaders, we need to make sure that these are reached as well, okay? And our people are satisfied and personally fulfilled in their roles and responsibilities within the sport organization. So basically, leadership is not gender specific. But what we're saying here is that we can actually acknowledge and appreciate what women bring to the table as leaders. It's not about who is better, but how the genders can complement each other. For this reason, gender parity in leadership is important because true progress, sustainable progress in the sport culture and context cannot happen without a diversity of perspectives in leadership roles. So I'd like to greet and celebrate all the women leaders in sports, and especially during this month of women. Okay, so thank you for everyone.
Time is up for this week's Rise Up, Shape Up episode. We would like to close the show with some borrowed lines from Billie Jean King, American former world #1 tennis player who won 39 Grand Slam titles. Champions keep playing until they get it right. Thank you everyone for your support. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube and follow us on our Facebook account. Rise Up, Shape Up is brought to you by the Philippine Sports Commission Women in Sports. Again, this is Jenny, your host. Have a marvelous day.